Okay, I am going to start recording. I'm going to welcome. So I'd like to welcome everybody. My name is Julie Paskett. I'm a career advisor in career exploration and development, and thank you for joining us for Future Focus Friday. Today we will be talking about graduate school. And this session will be led by Luann Caldwell, one of our career advisors. So the way today will work is that if you haven't had the opportunity, please fill out the form that I dropped into the chat. That just lets us know who's here today. And then Luann will give us a 30-minute overview of some graduate school things you need to know. And after that, you will have the opportunity to go to our breakout sessions led by Allison and Keith. We will have a breakout session on applications and essays, and then a breakout session on evaluating programs. And you can move between the two of those, choose one, the other, and Allison and Keith will answer questions about those specifically. So I will turn it over to Luann to go ahead and get started with her presentation. It looks like she's starting with a poll for you all.
Thanks, Julie, and a big hand for Julie, because Julie's been, to do any of these kinds of programs, there's a lot of behind the scenes that has to happen, and Julie is our magic wizard who makes that all happen. So we're so glad you all are with us. And the poll that you're seeing right now just helps us get a sense of what you're thinking about for grad school, and we'll dig into that a little bit. So it looks like we've got a nice variety of arts, humanities, law, couple humanities and law. And I'm going to close that out, and we'll also share some other handouts with you as we go on today of just a general information about grad school, and for those of you that like Excel sheets on how to track everything, there's this Excel sheet, there's some cool stuff. And what I'm looking for right now is my computer decided to close some things. So hang in there. I'm going to bring up the screen here. And as Julie said, we're going to do just a real quick overview to get started. And I'm setting my watch so we keep it quick. And then we're going to break off into smaller groups so you have a chance to ask your particular questions. If you do have some questions as we're going through this, I cannot see where you raise your hand or ask questions, but you can post questions in the chat, which is that little purple box off to your right. And my colleagues, Allison and Keith, can see those and they can interrupt me, or you can just interrupt me too.
Yes.
So,
Luann.
Great, perfect. So you already have shared, we've got a mix of arts, humanities, and law of things you're exploring. So we'll dig into those a little bit more specifically. And just to give you, I know some of you may know this already, but we wanted to give you an overview of what are graduate degrees. The pictures you're seeing off to the right, if you are into academia and regalia, the one on the upper right is a master's hood. It's shorter. It's got like, and the robe has sleeves you could put a wine bottle in. They've got big pockets. And it's funny when you go to graduation, this is going to help you decode the regalia. The picture you see below that is a doctoral hood that has the stripes. It's a longer hood. Both hoods have along the outside of the hood and also the tassel, the color that connects with the academic school. And then the colors inside the hood are the institutional colors. So in case you're ever wondering, looking at that, what does that all mean? You now have a decoder. And with graduate school, you have choices. So a master's degree is often where you will start. And that's usually a 2-year degree if you're going full time. There's a variety of what those are called, but they're master degrees. Doctoral degrees are usually anywhere from 3 to 6 years, depending on your topic area. That's the PhD or the EdD. And then I know at least one of you is thinking about law. So those are what are called professional degrees, which are also graduate degrees. Law degrees, you have a choice of a JD or LLM. And those usually take 3 years if you're going full time. And then if anyone's thinking medical school, that's an MD or a DO, and that's usually for 4 years full time going to school. So just to give you that overview. And then why pursue a graduate degree? And this is where you can shout out why you would want to pursue a graduate degree. And if you're not going to shout out, I will give some reasons. And the ones on the left are what we call motivators. So these are reasons that if you ever have a bad day in grad school, you go back to this and it can really motivate you. If graduate school is perfect, if that degree is required for your career goals, and that's been the case in many different careers, you have to have a master's degree, or it might be you can't move up until you have that graduate degree. But the thing that's different about grad school is an opportunity to really become an expert and go more in depth on a topic area or subject area. So it really requires having a true interest or fascination, or I just want to learn more, or I want to create knowledge or learn something that's going to help me do this thing. That's a really important piece too. Obviously, it increases career options. The research shows us the more degrees you have, the more doors open. And along with that, the more money usually comes your way, but not always, depends on the degree in the field. Graduate school is a wonderful opportunity for your growth, both personally and professionally. And then these other items, would you say those are motivators? The research shows us not so much. If those are the reasons why you're thinking about grad school, you might want to push a pause button and rethink it for a bit, because those are not the reasons that are going to keep you motivated because grad school is difficult. All of us who are talking to you today have graduate degrees. All of us have worked with students going through graduate school. It can be a slog at times. It's well worth it, but it has, just like it does for undergrad, you've had days where you're like, why am I doing this? You're going to have that in grad school too. So it's really important to have that deeper motivation. And these questions can help you start to reflect. And I'll also tell you a little secret. When you reflect on these questions, it also helps you tremendously when you go to write your personal statement. We'll talk more about that, and Keith will be guiding you on that a little bit later. So number one question is, what are my career goals? And how does this degree fit into those career goals? So why do I need it? How would I use that degree towards achieving what it is I want to achieve? What is it about the subject matter that really captures you? Like there may be a niche that you are just like, wow, I just love that class. Or I've got involved in this research and I am hooked. Or I'm reading this in the news and I'm wondering, like, why is that? Why is that happening? I want to know more. I want to figure this out. Graduate school, even more than your undergrad, is self-directed. So professors you're going to do a lot more reading. Professors will expect you to do reading beyond what is assigned. So it really takes that ability to be self-directed and to push yourself to learn more and to write more and to do more. And if that's not a skill set, it's something you can develop, and it might be something you already have, but just be aware that that's a really important piece for grad school. As we walked through the different degrees, you noticed you're looking at least 2 to 6 years, depending on which kind of degree you're going for. That's a commitment. And if you're ready to make that commitment in time, that's a good sign that you're ready to go. Going through grad school also involves more money. It might be financial support you need, or it might be emotional support. It might be some other support. Take a look at that and look at your resources and what is it that you might need to help you move forward. For some of you, there will be other people impacted by your decision to go to grad school. I should disclose at this point, I'm also currently a graduate student. I'm going for my PhD. Before I made that jump, I had a nice long discussion with my significant other, because it was going to impact as much as me, because there were going to be a lot of nights I wasn't going to be around, and then we don't have children at home, but we have a dog in the house and other things that someone's going to have to step in and take care of. So if you have someone else, have that conversation about what that might mean. And then there might be other things that will need to change in your life if you go on to grad school. So Among the three of us, I know at least one person chose to go to grad school in another state in a big city and made a big move. That was a big change. And so there might be things like that that you're ready to make, but just might need to think through it a bit. So where to start? And some of you have already started, but if you have not, this will give you some places where to start. So really, number one is geography, believe it or not, is if you are geographically bound, like I have to stay in Northeast Ohio, for example, then where you can go to grad school is limited. And now you've got your options are pretty constrained. If you're able to move, then you could go anywhere in the world, literally. So take a look at geography first, because that will control everything else you're looking at from that point on. I'm a big fan of encouraging to look at the literature. So when you are reading excellent articles that you're like, oh, this is the cutting edge stuff I want to be doing, or I want to learn more, look at who authored the work and where do they teach. That can be a big sign of how do I get to where the people are doing the work I want to do, or doing the research I want to do. Ask your faculty if you're going into an area that's not part of your current major, seek out faculty who are in that area to see what are their recommendations for programs, because they are so well connected. They usually know, given what your interests are, where's the cutting edge place to go, or what are people doing the work that are kind of under the radar that might be the next place that's really going to pop. So talk with your faculty. And accreditation is really important, but it's a piece that's often overlooked. So accreditation is the professional associations oversee the graduate and undergraduate programs. They give their seal of approval, which is accreditation, to say these programs are teaching the content that is essential in our field. So it's very important you go to accredited programs. Failure to do so can have certain real implications on down the other side. But on the upside, there's some great resources. So I know a couple of you were thinking about law. If you haven't gone to the Law School Admissions Committee website, lsac.org, they have a master list of all the accredited law schools in the United States. And for any field you're thinking about, there's going to be, go to the association, you'll see a link of accredited programs. But wait, there's also more for getting started. Rankings, you'll hear controversy about that, but U.S. News and World Report does what are called perceptive ratings. Part of it's based on data, but a big part of it's based on how they are perceived. That perception, there's some controversy with that, but that can be a tool to go off to those rankings. They don't rank for every kind of program, but they do a wide variety. I know one of you is thinking about art. So U.S. News and World Report actually does rank art programs. That gives you one indicator of some of the programs and programs you might not have thought about. It gives you another list to explore. The qualifications to get into that program, you want to know what's required to be an app. Not everybody can apply, so that's probably misworded there, but what's required to be a strong candidate for that program. And then ask yourself, what do I need to do to really make myself an even stronger candidate? Because you still have some time. There are things you could be doing to make yourself an even better candidate. What are those? And then looking more deeply at the curriculum, and that is what courses are required for that degree. What are the topic of those courses? Am I interested in that? What other experiences do they have? So some programs will have, for example, with law, there are a lot of law programs that have what are called combined degree programs. That's where you can be working on a law degree and, say, an MBA, a Master's of Business Administration, at the same time, or a Master's in Public Health at the same time. So that could be an interesting experience or option that might really be attractive. Some programs and graduate programs, you'll have a thesis to do. If it's a PhD program, often there's a dissertation. Some programs require that you do a practicum and or an internship. Some of them might offer really cool study abroad options. Some curriculums have great connections with international programs. So dig into that and see what you learn about the programs you're interested in and see if they meet your need. And then assistantships, you may have heard about, and this is a secret that shouldn't be a secret, but graduate assistantships are a way to pay for grad school. So what you do as a graduate assistant, you apply for it. When you're hired, typically the college will pay, or the school will pay, or department will pay for your tuition plus a small stipend. And in return, you're usually working about 20 hours a week, either doing research or teaching or working in an office. A lot of us, that's how we funded our own graduate education, is being graduate assistants. And it's also a way to get some great experience. So don't overlook those, or don't assume I can't afford grad school, because graduate assistantships can make it affordable. So I just gave you a bunch of things to be thinking about, but there might be additional factors that are really important to you as you weigh out which program or school is the one for you. We already talked about accreditation. Most of the programs will also give you the average completion time of the degree. We already talked about the curriculum. A lot of programs will also share with you on their website, what are our graduates doing? Another way you can do that is go into LinkedIn, search that university in the search box, click on alumni, and then search the degree. And that will tell you what those people who are doing with that degree, what are they doing? It's a really cool tool, and we can, in one of the rooms, we can show that to you if you need to see that too. The expertise and reputation of the faculty is really important for grad school, more so than undergrad, because in grad school, many programs, the faculty will select candidates who they can take on as mentees. And it's a closer working relationship often with faculty as a graduate student than you had as an undergrad. So for example, as a graduate assistant, you might be teaching a class that is supervised by a faculty member, or doing research that continues a line of research that a faculty member has started. That's a really important piece. So you do want to explore that more to understand the faculty, look at their backgrounds. Their CVs usually are right on their websites. It's easy to learn about them. The facilities might be important to you, of what, not only just library and computer labs, but it might also be the research facilities. Financial aid could be an important piece. They might offer additional scholarships beyond graduate assistantships. There are often not enough graduate assistantships for every student who would love to have one. So loans, there are loans for graduate study. There are options for that. Again, also apply for scholarships, because those are there for graduate school. We already talked about location and the resources for research. So again, that could be labs. It could be equipment. There's a lot of different aspects of research that might be important to you. And you might have a whole big long list of other things that are important to you. So keep track of that. And then the question we often get is, okay, I've done all that research. I'm ready to start applying. How many places should I apply? It depends. So first off, look at the programs that fit your goals and fit what's most important to you. Look at their acceptance rates. So some places that's super easy to find. So those of you that are interested in law school, when you go off to the lsac.org website, you look at the website for the law schools you're interested in, scroll down the page for that law school, you're going to see a chart that has the acceptance rates of the LSAT, the law school admissions test, and GPA combinations, and what are the acceptance rates for each of those combinations, or broad combination categories. So you're going to know pretty quickly looking at that, like, I'm highly competitive, or that might be a reach for me. Here's what I'd recommend is to at least go for at least one reach school that you're like, I would love to go there, but I don't fit their profile perfectly, because the schools are looking at you holistically. They're not looking only at the numbers, and you very well may get in at some place you think you might not get in just looking at the pure numbers, because of all the other cool things you've done, like research and volunteering and leadership and travel abroad and whatever else you've done. So go for at least one reach, and then have at least one, what I like to call a safety school, that when you look at the data, it's like, I'm not 100% sure, but I am like 80 to 90% sure I will get in there. I fit their parameters really well. If you are applying for med school, just at FYI, they have 14, but that's, of all the graduate schools, that's usually the highest number. For most of you, you're going to go for maybe 2 or 3. You're not going to, and law schools, it might be 4 or 5. It depends on what you're looking for, but do not think you have to go for 14 for humanities or art. You do not. but just giving you that information so you can kind of see how that goes. And there are costs as you are applying, just so you can start either asking for donations from family members or start saving up some funds. There are application fees, but please be sure to ask about waiving those fees. Often they will waive it if you ask. Often they waive it based on financial need. And this, more and more universities are doing things to eliminate the barriers to applying for grad school because they want to attract more diversity, including socioeconomic diversity. So don't be shy about asking, can you waive that fee? You might have to pay to get transcripts from whatever institutions you've attended, because you'll need transcripts from every place you have college credit. Some graduate programs or programs may require you to come to do an interview. Again, right now in COVID-19, those interviews will probably be virtual, but who knows, we'll see. But you may have the cost of traveling somewhere to do that interview. And then there's the time. So it's creating time in your life when you start the application process, because that's it always takes more time to apply than you ever thought it possible, because every place has a different application process and procedures. A few exceptions to that is law school has a central application, medical school does as well. That means there's one application you fill out and then you identify whatever schools you want it to go to, and it goes to all those schools. But then on the downside, all those schools will send you what are called supplemental questions. So it's like filling out a separate application really for a single place you apply, regardless of whether there's a central application or you're applying individually to each place. When you put the application together, and Keith is going to be the person who's the room that can help you walk through some of this later, and we'll talk more about who else can help you too. Number one, and I've been on the reviewing side of applications for graduate school, and you would be surprised how many people do not follow the instructions. And that's a real easy way to say, no, thank you. We will not admit you at this time. Because if you can't follow the instructions for the application, you're probably going to have a rough time following the syllabus for grad school. So follow their applications completely into a T. Make sure you're applying before the deadline. That seems obvious, but don't wait until close to the deadline. Apply sooner than later. Part of that is the assistantships might get you might get snacked up before you apply, because every place does have admissions differently. Some places are going to do what are called rolling admissions, so they will be accepting people from the point they open up applications as they go forward until they fill their class. Other places will have a deadline. They won't look at the applications till that deadline hits, then they'll start reviewing applications. So you need to be on top of all of that, because you don't control it. It's all going to be on their time frame and the process that they choose. If there is an admissions test required, and that would be the GRE, that's a graduate record exam that's used for the humanities, some of the arts. The GMAT is used more for business. LSAT is law school, MCAT is medical, PCAT is pharmacy. If those tests are required, make sure you understand if it is required, and then make sure you are preparing for this, which you can do for free using, again, we'll go back to LinkedIn. LinkedIn has learning that as a Kent State student, you click on that and there's some great GRE and GMAT prep. You can also do some things online. And there are classes you can pay for to do as well. But you'll want to take it and you'll want to time it out so that your results get to the school in plenty of time to meet their deadlines. That can be tricky because it's not, even though it's computerized testing, you would think that that goes instantaneously to whatever schools you want it to go to. It does not. It takes about 3 weeks. So you want to time that out. So typically it's summertime you would take these tests, or early fall. And then when you put your application together, one of the pieces for most applications is going to be what's called your personal statement or your goal statement. And that we'll talk about more in a little bit. They may also have other questions for you to answer. You'll be asked to get some letters of recommendation. Typically that's going to be from your faculty or someone that can speak to your abilities, future abilities in this career field, or to handle the subject matter or be a leader in the field. And that'll be usually 2 to 3 of those letters of recommendation. There's a separate application form. Often it's for the graduate college or graduate school. They'll need to request transcripts. They'll often ask you to include a resume, or you'll see the phrase curriculum vitae. That is your resume. It's the phrase that's used in the profession. So once you go on for a graduate degree, that what is your resume is often referred to as a curriculum vitae. And we can explain what it's really not at this point in time different in terms of how you put it together. It becomes different on down the road for you. And then some places may want writing samples. Again, follow their instructions completely. If they want some writing samples, make sure you include it. If they do not want extraneous things attached to your application, do not attach them. So don't think I'll just throw it in even though they don't want it. If they say, please do not give us more than we want, don't give them more than they want. Ditto for letters of recommendation. If they ask for 2, give them 2. If they want 3, give them 3. Don't go beyond what they ask for. That personal statement is often a thing that throws people because it's not something you've ever had to write before. And really the bottom line is you're thinking about why or how does this academic program fit my goals? That's really what you're getting at, bottom line, unless they've given you another prompt. And if they've given you another prompt, make sure you're answering what they're asking you fully and dig into the why. So they're going to have your resume, they have your transcripts, they know you're a bright person, but they don't know why you want to do this graduate degree, and in particular, why our program. So that's why if you've done all the things we talked about before now of digging in to learn more about the program and the faculty and what are they for, that helps you answer this question because you can really get at, I know this person's the leader in this field, I did this research project on blank utilizing this research, I really want to become better at this, or this is why this really fits my goals. Your personal statement is a narrative essay, which makes it a little awkward to write because it's about you. That's not something you've had to write a whole lot about probably. And there should be a clear beginning, middle, and end, and a theme that connects. Those are the best written personal statements, that in that first paragraph, there's a theme, a note that's hit that you can see how that ends at the bottom. At the very end, you see how that all connects. And obviously, just like anything else you're writing, it should be professionally, clearly, concisely written. Keep to the limit that if they give you a limit, if it's 1 page, keep to 1 page, whatever it is. Obviously, be you, be authentic, because this is you, your personal statement. And I'll also tell you, folks who read these are very gifted at reading through the BS. So do not write what you think they want to hear. Write who you are and how this degree and this program fits your goals. No one else has that story. That's yours. That's unique. That's authentic. Obviously, don't repeat what's already on your application. So don't use this as a chance to repeat how you were so great at these classes or had this one leadership role, unless you're digging in deeper. Like I had this leadership role, and here's the amazing aha moment I had through that has led me to this career path. Your personal statement can also be a place if there is something that when you look at your application, you're like, oh, Lordy, this is going to keep me from getting in. This is going to be a place to address it. And I'll give you an example. I know someone who had a 2.75 overall GPA. It was applying for law school. And if you look at the law school charts, that's low for getting into law school. But that person's major GPA was around almost a 4 point. Obviously, this person had some rough spots, but once they got into the major, kicked it. So this person in their personal statement wrote about how that, when you look at the GPA, you're going to say or notice, I'm not my overall GPA doesn't speak to my true abilities. Here's what happened with my major. Oh, and by the way, I also did these really great internships related to law that helped to really motivate me after taking this other class. I think you get the point, but it's a tricky thing to do, but it can be a way to overcome any misperceptions or misinterpretations for you as a candidate. And then please have somebody read over your personal statement before you click submit. That could be a faculty member in that area. And then those of us in career exploration and development would love to help you out too. We are all really good at reading things over and helping you make sure it fits your goals. The letters of recommendation, when you go to ask the person that's writing that letter, usually a faculty member, please do it in person or by phone. if at all possible. That's a big ask. And just like anything that's big, you want to make it more personal. And no one should be surprised they're a reference. I've had faculty tell me, like, oh, I got this email from blank university asking me to fill out a recommendation. I didn't even know I was a reference. So please don't place your recommenders in that space. They need to know and be prepared to be your advocate, because that's what your reference is. They are an advocate for you. And then after each time you've asked somebody to write a letter of recommendation, please be sure to send them a thank you letter. Handwritten would be perfect. It can be an email, but that letter is so special now because we get so few letters. Choose your recommenders wisely and strategically. So think about who can really speak your abilities in that academic field, or it could be a faculty member you just really have clicked with. You've had great conversations. You love that person's classes. They probably love you too. In an academic way, and they could speak to your abilities. It could also be someone that you've gotten to know as a staff member, if you've worked on campus, or you've been a volunteer or a student leader, or it could be someplace out in the field that you've done an internship that's related to that academic field. That person can speak to your potential to be an outstanding professional, but it needs to be someone that can speak to you, your potential in that field that you're applying to. So it should not be like the next door neighbor who's known you all your life, unless they're in that field as well, and can really speak to your potential in that field, not just, hey, this person's just a great person. Give them the deadline and then give them plenty of time. Your recommenders are busy, busy folks. They get a lot of requests to do a lot of letters. You're one of many. And all those letter requests come usually at the same time in the fall. So give them at least 3 weeks and let them know it has to be in by this date if there's a deadline. If there's not, they'll probably get it and ask as many as quickly as possible. And then for each person you're asking to write a letter for you, also give them a copy of your resume so that they can see. They might not know everything you've been doing, everything you're involved with, the programs you want them to be a reference for. And here's why. Is more and more programs are not asking that letter to come in a physical letter form. They're sending a link out to your recommender. So it's going to be important you also have accurate emails for folks, or mailing addresses. They will send an email directly to your recommender. Then they click on that email and the link, and then they fill out the form and the letter online. There are still some places that will do things hard copy. So you'll need to give folks letters that are pre-addressed of where that needs to go if it needs to get mailed in. So understanding the process, the application process, typically if it's a program that starts in the fall, the application process will start usually about a year before you want to start the program. So for those of you thinking of law, you are going to want to get your application in early fall. Just about every other program, same way. But there are some programs that start in January. There are some programs that start in the summer. So whatever time of year you are wanting to start, you're going to start your application. You need to understand their deadlines of when they make decisions. And then after you complete your application, ask or understand what comes next. Are there interviews required? Is there a separate application for graduate assistantships? Often there are. Sometimes there's not. So make sure you understand that process. At what point do they anticipate notifying candidates that they've been admitted? If you are admitted, is there a due date for sending in your deposit? So again, you can start to save in money. It's just like when you were an undergrad, you had to send a deposit to hold your seat. Understand when classes start, when you would start as a grad student. And if you would happen to not be admitted this year, is there a wait list? Because many programs do a wait list. And as people roll off the acceptance list and take maybe other seats, or things come up that they can't take their seats, they'll go to the wait list. So don't assume, I didn't get in. There might be other ways to get there. So some final advice to sum this all up is, if you are looking at, let's say, other than Kent State, you know us pretty well, but if you want to go to graduate school somewhere else and you can go visit them, please do. I know in the COVID-19 environment that may not be possible. You may have to do your visiting completely online. But before you accept, I would highly recommend going, because this is going to be your community for a couple of years, and you want to feel comfortable there, at least have a sense of what it's like to be there. Graduate school application process can be overwhelming. It can be add a lot of stress to your life at certain points. Just break it down step by step and check it off. Give yourself that sense of accomplishment and know that you will get through this. It's one more thing. It can be less overwhelming when you do that. If you aren't already, start reading the academic journals, publications, keep up with the news related to your area so that you know what's happening. And that also can guide you as you get into grad school with something that you might want to do as a thesis or dissertation or research. If you haven't already, seek out some opportunities this year with faculty, if you are still a student, to do some research. There is not a faculty member I know of who would say, if you ask them, do you need some help with your research? It's rare that a faculty member is going to be like, oh, no, I couldn't use any extra free help. So ask, because they probably, if they can't, they're going to get you connected with someone that could, or you might do an independent research project. And Kent State has the Student Research Symposium that you can present your research or your poster. Those are great things that those look excellent also on your application. Volunteer, seek out opportunities, internships, working on campus in a department that's related, whatever you can do to start to gain some more experience. I had someone ask me recently, hey, I'm interested in going into child psych. Should I include or think about getting involved with working with kids in some way? Yes, yes, yes. So anything that's related, even though it's not your academic area, if it's related or it helps you build the skills or abilities or strengths that are needed in that field, go for it. It cannot hurt, so go for it. And if you don't get in this year, don't say, oh, this will never happen for me. I have worked with a great number of students that didn't get in on the first try and then looked at what they needed to do to be a stronger candidate. Sometimes it's taking a class to prove that they've got the ability. So there are places to do that. It might be working, it might be maturation. There's a lot of things that can make you a stronger candidate. Ask, go back or figure out what you need to do, and then do it and apply again next year. Don't let a no be what keeps you from your goals. A no is just, may take a little longer, but you can still achieve it. And then come see us in Career Exploration Development. We're here to help you achieve your career goals. And we're online. While you're online right now, you can make virtual appointments with us right through KSU Advising. We also have drop-in hours. You can see that on our website. And right now, we're going to break off into 2 groups, which can also be a place for you to get some of your questions answered.